So who is Frederick Douglass? This is what Frederick Douglass did. And the reason why I want to talk about this is because some of you have been watching TV or you've heard people say, well, the students can't do good in school because they don't have the resources that they used to. Or the Southfield School District is having a problem and they're going through some things and this is why the kids don't have, maybe they don't have the books, maybe they don't have the instructors that they need. And you're starting to buy into that and you're only performing at an average rate because you believe it. And so anything that anybody gives to you, you're like, I'm gonna lean on that, and that's the reason why I'm not an A student. And then you say, but the students out in Farmington or West Bloomfield, they're getting A students because of the environment that they're in. I know some of you think like that, because I did. Like, this is what people say. But T, I said impossible is nothing. Your environment's irrelevant. And so you look at Frederick Douglass, who back in his day, they said blacks can't perform at the same rate, and this is why they need to be slaves. They said you have to stay a slave because you're not good for anything else. And so when the slave owner's wife started teaching him how to read, the slave master came in and saw his wife teaching Frederick Douglass how to read and said, if you teach a slave, you'll make them no good for anything. If they learn anything, then they're no longer a good slave. If they better themselves, they're no longer a good slave. And so his wife had to stop teaching them, but he had taught them the ABCs already. So when he taught him the ABCs, what Frederick Douglass did, even though he didn't have the resources that some of you are saying you don't have, and you might be believing this, what Frederick Douglass did was he started stealing bread because he was what they called a house Negro. And he was in the house, and so they trusted him to go out into the community and buy goods and bring them back so they would have things for the house. So what he started to do was steal the leftover food and the bread because there were some white kids out in the neighborhood that were still poorer than what he was by living in the wealthy slave master's house. So he took the bread, took it to some of the poor white kids and told them, I'll keep feeding you if you keep teaching me words and teaching me how to read. And people still talking about my father ain't. My mother don't really talk to me. She was like, we don't have a good relationship. Well, you know, our school ain't set up like Farmington, West Bloom, like Grosse Pointe. All of them, they got better schools and better teachers. Like they told y'all that and that's what y'all believe. And my man was a slave and he like, listen, I have to learn how to read so by any means necessary, even if I risk my life. Like after you leave high school, after this, the world is like, I don't care what happened to you. Either you perform or it's gonna suck for you. Like either you perform or life is gonna fall off at a drastic measure. You know, somebody in the room is like, well, man, my father wasn't there and life's so hard. That's why I'm not doing good in school, man. I don't see my father. He locked up or he got killed when I was a kid. My mother said she don't want to have nothing to do with me. She get drunk or she smoke weed all the time or somebody's locked up. I stay with my grandparents or my father beat me up, but he don't want to have. And I know that. And I know in your head, you're thinking like, this is the worst thing that could ever happen to me on the world. And T, I was like, I don't care what it is. Impossible is nothing. Your environment's irrelevant. It's a whole lot of people who don't have a father or don't have a mother in their life who became successful, who performed, and they didn't lean on that thing as a crutch. There's some people walking around right now.